and welcome to this live video on how to lead a successful team and feel less overwhelmed. So overwhelm, burnout, generally feeling stressed and there's too much to do, I just think is something that is prevalent at the moment across many sectors, many workplaces and many teams that I work with. And so I've been doing a series on how to work effectively with teams, whether that be team meetings, how you empower your team, how you listen to your teams. And this is part of that series. So if you don't know me, hello and welcome. My name is Emily Petty. I am a coach, a trainer, a facilitator, a creator of spaces, and founder of Lead Your Way. And really my role and my passion and my desire is, to put simply, is for you to love work, for you to feel excited about work, to progress and enjoy your career in a way that is meaningful for you, and for you to empower and help others to do the same. So to create work cultures where people are trusted, people are listened to, where ideas are generated, where collaboration can happen. And I do that by creating spaces. This is a space. I create spaces through my programs. I have listening spaces. I run away days and retreats, and I can come in and support your team as well to create those spaces, because I believe that space, and I'll unpack a little bit about that, is space to listen, space to think, space to share, space to stop this cycle really of overwhelm and burnout, is the key to making progress. So if you're watching live, please do say hi. If you're watching on the replay, please also hashtag replay, and I can catch up on any of the comments. So I hope you're all well. I hope you've had a lovely week, and welcome to the Friday coffee break. And we are looking at how to lead a successful team and feel less overwhelmed. So on my weekly email this week, I started with a quote: "The most successful way to succeed is to help others succeed," which was a quote from Adam Grant, who was asked, what's your sort of mantra in a podcast, and that's what he said. And that really struck me because I think often we have a different perspective. So we think about our own success, and we might be managing a team and we're working super hard to make sure the team succeed, but it's sort of from our perspective. So so I'm slightly distracted by my child next door, but anyway, I'll keep going. Solidarity to anyone who's got children at home today. My children aren't even at school, so they're not even striking, they're just loafing around all summer. So really one of the challenges is that we hold on to our tasks and role and things that need to get done really, really tightly. We try to control everything. We try to be completely available for our team. My door is always open, and that's what we say when you join an organisation, and it all feels good and lovely. And we end up working harder and harder, and we neglect our own well-being. We neglect time for ourselves, we neglect time to think, and that causes a problem. And the problem that it causes is you become a bottleneck. Everything has to come through you because you're controlling everything. You've got to have your eyes over everything. And that causes frustration in your team, causes you to feel frustrated, but worstly, you feel exhausted and you burn out. And as you move into a high state of stress, probably sort of even, you might not even be aware of it, you're in a constant high state of stress, our ability to regulate our emotions, our ability to think clearly dramatically reduces. Our ability to concentrate dramatically reduces, which leads to poor decision making, we're less productive. We then might become sort of short with people, and our relationships break down and trust is broken down. If you want to know about trust, I talked about that last week. You can see that inside Lead Your Way or on my YouTube channel. So if you manage other people or lead other people, or you lead projects or areas of work, I think it's really useful to look at what the difference between being a leader is and a manager is. So a leader starts with why. If anyone has read the book by Simon Sinek, which is called Why, I really highly recommend it. He's also got a really good TED talk around the difference between leadership and management. So when you are leading others, you are setting the vision. You're looking forward. You're not looking down at your to-do list. You're looking up and you're looking forward to the future. You are thinking about how you're going to implement change, how you can do things differently, how you can become more agile, how you can adapt, how you can evolve, how you can respond to external circumstances. So you've got a wide view and a long view. And you're dealing with people, you're leading people. And your role is to bring people alongside you. So it's a lot of it is relational, and that's why we think, oh, I'll keep my door open and I'll be a good relationship person and have good relationships. But actually what we don't do is really consider how we build those relationships, and that is what exhausts us. And your role is to motivate, it's to empower, it's to coach, it's to inspire. That is the role of a leader. Now, a manager, and bear in mind, if you're in a leadership role, you're probably doing management at the same time. So it's just bringing that consciousness as to actually how much time am I spending leading and how much time am I spending managing. So if you are managing or a manager, you are focusing on the what. What needs to get done? What are the tasks? Have the tasks been done? Perhaps the process. And your role is to execute the vision, or to guide and support your team to execute that vision. You might be reacting and responding to change or what's going on around you, and you're focusing more on structure and process. It's more about organisation, managing tasks, possibly more operational. And if you manage others, you will obviously be working in the manage space, but you will actually equally be required to sit in the leadership space. And I think often the challenge, particularly if you're a middle manager, that kind of stuck in the middle piece, is we don't spend enough time with our head up thinking about the leadership piece, the why, the vision, the change, the people. And I believe that one of the keys to leading a successful team, particularly if you're in middle management, is to spend more time in the leadership space. Yes, you need to kind of work on the management particularly if you're a middle manager. That is all good stuff. But if we're only focusing on the task, there's a bit of a disconnect between possibly you're being managed by a big picture vision person who's head up and has got where they are because they are a big picture vision person, and you've probably got where you are because you're an expert at the detail. And in a way, actually, if you can see yourself as that bridge between, perhaps your director or senior leader, and actually your role is to bring some of that vision and some of that people stuff into your operational side of your team. So I just shared that to help you to kind of reflect on, I suppose a coaching question would be, how much time do you spend as a leader in leadership things? So that vision, the people, the thinking about change, the scanning the horizon, the motivation, the empowering, and how much time do you spend on the what? On the executing the vision, on the practical, on the tasks, on the process, and bringing it into reality, bringing that vision into reality. And what does that balance look like realistically for you? So I just asked that coaching question while I have a sip of tea. Any questions, please do pop them in the chat and I can respond to those. And in addition to this, most managers or leaders have their own operational responsibility. So you have your own list of tasks, projects that you're managing. So it is no wonder that you, if you're watching this, you might have like hooked onto the overwhelm, you're feeling overwhelmed. And so there's that shift. So your priority is to create and set the vision. Yes, we need to get the operational done, but actually without the vision, the operational can get lost. I think that's when we kind of get overwhelmed because more and more tasks come in and we lose sight of actually where are we heading, what are we trying to achieve. And so it's always balancing that present, being present in the moment of the task that we've got to do, but where are we heading, where are we getting to. So what does that balance look like for you? So I put in my notes, focus on the people and the execution will follow, because actually 9 times out of 10 you've got a team to get on with the doing. Their job is to focus on the task, and your job is to shift more into the leadership role. So I've written 4 words. So one is to listen, one is to coach, one is to empower, and the other is to delegate. So listening is, I believe, the most underrated leadership tool in your toolkit. What we do, someone comes to you with a problem and you vaguely listen. You might be emailing, you might be on your phone, you might be distracted by someone coming into the room and people walking past, and you hear something and you respond and you say, well, why don't you do that? And then that's the thing ticked off my to-do list and it's moved on. How much time do you spend truly listening? So the power of giving somebody your undivided attention. So when I mean that, I mean that means making a commitment to remove all digital distractions. So turning off your notifications, shutting down all your tabs if you're on a virtual meeting, and putting your phone somewhere else. How often do you spend time actually really focusing on listening? So I was in a meeting, it was a face-to-face meeting, but we were on somebody's laptop and we were working on a screen, collaborating together, and Teams notifications were coming in, and this person was responding to those team notifications while we were together. And what happens there is, number one, I felt devalued, like I'd committed my time to come to a meeting and I felt devalued, and our thinking was interrupted. And there's a stat around, you know, when we kind of check our emails, it takes us 10 to 20 minutes to get back into our thinking. And that I haven't got a stat around this, but I wouldn't be surprised that once our thinking is interrupted, we may never, in a meeting, for example, or a conversation, you may never get back to that train of thought. And if your role is to coach and inspire and motivate, then helping other people to do their very best thinking is really the most powerful thing you can do. So it sounds super, super simple and straightforward, but actually it's really, really hard to do. It's in one of my top tips at the end. So I'd really encourage you to think about, how am I listening, and am I promising not to interrupt? Am I giving my full attention? Notice when you interrupt someone in their conversation. Notice their face, their cues. What does that do to them? Sometimes they'll go, oh, thank you, I really appreciate that advice. No, it's really, really, really helpful. Thank you, really appreciate it. But actually deep down, they've lost something inside, and what has happened is they've become dependent on you. Equals frustration, equals burnout, equals overwhelm. So number one, how can you become a better listener? The second is coaching. So one of the key tools for coaching is to listen, but really think about, actually, if you do have to speak, can you ask a coaching question? So can you help them through coaching find their own solution? So that means removing your judgment, removing your desire to say, oh no, I've got the answer, I really want to jump in with it, and to allow that person to come to their own conclusion. Because if that person comes to their own conclusion, they're going to own that result, that action and that task, and they're going to take responsibility for it. If you tell them to do it and it might not sit very comfortably with them, then chances are they're going to either find it difficult or just say, yes, I'll do it, and maybe don't feel skilled or able to do it, or they are going to just not do it at all, or do it and feel resentful. So listen, coach. Next word is empower. And I think all three of these work together, but empowering people and listening and coaching comes with a belief that someone who you are working with, probably someone beneath you, has as much ability to come to their own conclusion, to work out a way to do said task or job, and is equal to you in their thinking. So when we empower people, we believe and trust in them. And then the third thing is actually practically, when we're thinking about practical tasks, delegating the task. And when you delegate the task, be really, really clear about who is responsible. So you're ultimately accountable, but who is responsible for carrying out the task and who is responsible for making the decision. So that's often the bit we forget. So I'm delegating to you, it is your decision. You can make the decision, or if it might be that you do need to make the decision, which may be the case, you make it very clear that you want them to go and research something, bring some facts and figures together, produce a report, come back in a week, and then you'll make the decision. So be really clear when you're delegating who's making the decision and who is responsible. So we start with the belief that everyone can find the solution and the answer. Even if they're struggling right now, your role is to give that space for them to find that answer. We believe that everyone can think for themselves. There's an equality of thinking. And you are committing to give your attention. So I do talk about assertiveness and confidence because, that's really key for leadership. But actually, sometimes the art of persuasion is the art of manipulation. And when we're manipulating people to come to our point of view, we are actually stopping them from doing their own thinking. So sometimes, obviously, persuasion is a useful tool in your toolkit. But really thinking, actually, by giving my attention, it can be the most powerful form of persuasion because they are persuading themselves. When people are given attention, they feel valued, they feel connected, they feel part of a team, they trust you. So this power of listening and giving attention is really, really powerful. And there's a shift from what do I need to do? And anyone who's watched me or been on my email list for a while, you'll know this is one of my mantras. Shift from what do I need to do today, so that's the operational, the task, to who do I need to be. That's creating actually a behaviour shift, so focusing on your behaviour. And actually as a leader, we start with our own behaviour, we start with ourselves, who we are, how we want to show up, and then we move into that why and the vision piece. And maybe have a think, like actually getting the task done is a lower priority than empowering your team to succeed. Getting the task done is a lower priority than empowering your team to succeed, because the impact is greater. And you might be very busy, appreciate you're doing a lot of good tasks, but a lot of those tasks might actually be irrelevant, too time consuming, not the most helpful tasks. You might be spending time doing stuff that is disempowering your team and causing them frustration. And that is where this overwhelm is coming from. Any questions, please do ask in the chat, and I'm going to just move on now to 4 practical steps that you can take, 4 ideas for action that you could take today to help you lead a successful team and feel less overwhelmed. So number 1 is start with ourselves. And again, if you've watched me, you'll know that understanding ourselves is key. So when we are in that high state of stress, as I've shared, we'll be able to we'll be less good at regulating our emotions, we'll be less productive, we'll be focusing on the wrong things, and obviously we're moving into a state of overwhelm and burnout. So your number one priority is yourself, your own well-being, and taking rest and setting up boundaries that protect you, and your well-being and your energy, because when you are regulated, when you are able to calm your nervous system, when you face a tricky situation at work, you will be 100 times more effective. That's not a stat that I know, but I certainly know that you will be more productive, you'll have more energy, your thinking, your own thinking will be so much clearer. So I won't go into a well-being session, but one really simple tool that I use is just to think about the 4 areas or pillars of well-being. So emotional, physical, spiritual, and mental, and almost thinking about them in a line. And am I wonky? Am I giving all of those areas the attention that they need? And what are those things that I need in place for me? For example, I go for a walk every morning. I've actually noticed that my walks become I've been trying to sort of get fit, and I've become so sort of power walky, that sometimes it feels a little bit stressful. So today I deliberately slowed down, went off the path into the woods, and just took some time to breathe. So are you, if you like meditation or yoga or going for a swim, walking in nature, taking a cold bath, swimming in the sea, whatever it is that you do to regulate your nervous system, your emotions. Are you aware of your emotions? Are you aware of what you're feeling? Are you suppressing them? Are you open to them? Your physical health, your sleep, what you're eating, how much water you're drinking. Your spiritual connection, are you connected to a wider sense of who you are, to your soul? If you do have a form of religion, how connected are you to your faith and your beliefs? And then our mental, so understanding our thoughts. If you want any work on the inner critic, pop a comment and I'll send links to lots of resources around that. But are you aware of your inner critic? Are you able to work through your inner critic and access your inner leader? So that's number 1. And alongside that is increasing self-awareness, which is number 2. And we can do this. 2 top tips really to increase your self-awareness is self-reflection, so reflecting yourself, and asking for feedback. So asking for feedback from your team, asking for feedback from your boss and your peers. And then the third step is to step into your role as a leader. And what you can do is really visualize yourself as that leader. Visualize what behaviors you want to step into, and create the picture of that. You can do that visually, you can do that in words, you can do that through meditation. And when you say, who do I want to be, you can tap into some of those power words and step into who you want to be today. Who do you need to be today to tackle some of those issues, to have those difficult conversations? And then the last one, which is the most powerful in terms of leading a successful team, and I believe it's just not talked about enough, and that is to listen and to give attention. In one-to-ones, really make sure you're prioritizing that space, making sure you're not squeezing it in between 2 very difficult meetings, making sure that in meetings, if you chair a team meeting, everybody has a voice and that you are giving attention. You're not trying to interrupt, you're not trying to solve or to sort or to save or come up with some answers. And I'd really encourage you to almost do a listening circle. So I run listening circles. If anyone is interested in joining a listening circle, please let me know. And really that's an opportunity to ask in the room, what are you thinking and how are you feeling? And go round the room, go round the meeting table or around the Zoom room or Teams room, and make sure everyone knows when they're going to speak and everyone has an opportunity to speak. You can time it or you can be free flow, and actually just people being aware of each other is really powerful, because what actually happens in meetings at the moment is you arrive, particularly on a virtual meeting, and you can't even see who's in the room. The meeting starts, 2 or 3 people speak, and you're not even aware of the presence of other humans. So anything that you can do to create and build a heightened sense of an awareness and connection with everybody in the room at the start of the meeting, because if you bothered to invite them, you bothered to like, I think it costs the organisation however much someone's paid, whether that's sort of between 10 and 50 quid an hour, you know, that's a lot of money that the organisation is paying for that person to be there. So make sure they are present, that they are welcomed, that they are connected to the room. So in a virtual room, I would do that by a check-in round, making sure people take turn their video on and say hello. You can do a welcome check-in question or an icebreaker question, so that builds connection. In real life, I love the sit down game, which is basically you ask everyone to stand in a circle with a chair behind them, make sure there is a chair behind them, and you ask people to sit down one after the other, but not in a circle, and you're not allowed to speak or do gestures. And if people sit down at the same time together, you start again. And it's a really, 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 really powerful way for people to connect and build an awareness of who is in the room. Try it. You probably need at least 7 or 8 people to make it work. And it's particularly actually powerful with bigger groups, because often it's in bigger groups where people get forgotten and people are excluded. And the sit down game, I think, is a really powerful way to build connection. So those are my reflections on how to lead a successful team. So I realised that kind of it's a huge topic. So you know, I could do a whole I could do a whole 6-month leadership training program. But I believe that this is the core. This is the core of leadership. And when we step into our awareness of self, our understanding of ourselves, our regulation of ourselves, and when we step into really truly believing that other people have the answer and seeking to listen and connect with them, everything genuinely changes. So I am working more and more in this space of building connection and listening and creating those spaces, because I really, really believe that it's transformational for how teams work and connect together. I am opening up spots to work with me in the autumn. Don't really want to say that, but yes, from September onwards. And I'm at the moment I'm flexible about how that looks. That could be me facilitating an away day where I work with your team to really look at how you meet, how you connect, how you communicate, how you listen to one another, and how you can create new rituals or ways of being that increase connection, that increase collaboration, that increase idea generation and listening skills. So that could be an away day, or it could be a series of sessions. So I can facilitate, perhaps a half day session face to face, and then a series of listening circles and action learning sets where I support you to embed a completely new way of working and a new way of being. And in that process, over time, obviously that new way of being will be developed, but also I suppose that not disconnection isn't the right word, connection is the right word, but it'll empower you to let go a little bit and step into a leadership role. And I can do that alongside one-to-one coaching with you, so that almost like you go on a journey, your own journey, and we facilitate a journey with your team. So if you're feeling just frustrated by the way your team are working together, if there are difficult relationships and challenges in your team, if you want your team to connect more powerfully, then please do drop me a line. I'm working for the next 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks, depending on when I move house. And so could take a discovery call this side of August, or have a chat with you at the end of August, mid-August onwards, about how I can support you and your team in the autumn. And the other thing that I do also do is See Me Colour Profiles, which is a behaviour profiling tool, which I suppose it gives a really powerful structure to facilitate listening, because it enables people to really clearly communicate through the survey, and they get a report which helps them to communicate kind of who they are, how they like to communicate, their behaviour preferences. So it sort of forms a really strong foundation for helping you to understand yourself and helping others to understand themselves. So if you're interested in any of those, please do drop me a line, and I would love to support you in the autumn. So in the meantime, I hope you have a lovely weekend, and any questions, please do pop them in the chat. Thanks, everybody.